Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share this program so that so your friends can join in the conversation. Also, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And in both cases, make sure you click that notification button. That way you will get the alerts as soon as we go live. Also want to encourage you, please visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is a cool place to go to find all sorts of Pro 2A memorabilia and swag, T-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, you name it. And the good thing is, or the best thing is, every penny that you spend there goes right back into our fight for the right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. Now, we all know that the Second Amendment has been under drastic attack, and not unfortunately, but those who would seek to get rid of the Second Amendment, I think to some degree have come to realize that they're nowhere near being able to do that. I think the Heller decision and the McDonald decision have really kind of laid that out as a fundamental right. But what they have been successful in doing is trying to nibble around at the edges of it. In other words, to a certain degree, rather than doing a legal attempt to do away with the right, they've attempted to do things like public shaming and going after people who decide that they want to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Whether it's encouraging banks to refuse to do business with firearms retailers or firearms manufacturers. Whether it's going after any politician or anybody who would dare have a firearm in a movie, Hollywood, people in Hollywood. But there's also one other, and that has to do with the shooting sports. Now, we all know, at least a lot of people are active. You know about things like two-gun competitions and IDPA and things like that. But there are places actually where both historically and in current day that the Second Amendment or that firearms are utilized in public sport. For example, the Olympics or high schools and some universities actually have shooting teams. And what we're starting to find is that they're going after these particular entities in order to, once again, try and remove firearms from the overall lexicon of American culture. In other words, they're trying to ostracize people who would dare be involved in anything having to do with firearms. One great example has to do one of the examples that was brought up in a recent article was talking about, well, for example, whenever there was a mass shooting in other countries, like they talked about Canada. There was a mass shooting where 14 women were killed in the winter of 1989. And what they noted from that was the Olympics following it. As a matter of fact, since then, they've only had two competitive shooters go to the Olympics ever since then, after having a dozen who went in 1992. So the point here being is that they're literally shaming people into not participating in that particular sport. And that, once again, that's just that country. That's not the only country where that's happened. You have instances where, for example, in Nevada, University of Nevada, Reno actually had a very highly successful shooting sports team, one that has won more medals than any other institution, any other college in the shooting sports. Other than I think military academies. But once again, they're now eliminating their shooting team, their rifle team, their medal-winning rifle team, and replacing it with cross country. Now, the problem with some of this is that it's not just happening externally. In other words, it's not just those who are on the outside of the sport that are the cause of this happening. There are some who are on the inside of the sport who are the reason why stuff like this is happening. This guy you see right here, he's a biathlete. He's probably the most successful biathlete that's out there. Now, you may not recognize him. His name is Lowell Bailey. And he actually came out recently and talked about how even though, once again, he is very, very successful as a competitive shooter, or at least in this particular sport, he has issues with our gun laws. This is what he said. He was quoted in a USA Today article. He said, "I support an assault weapons ban," Bailey said. "I really do. Our country needs to wake up. Our country needs to change. There's just no excuse. I compete against all of these other world nations, Germany, Norway. How good are they on the range? They are great at rifle marksmanship. Do you know how strict their gun control laws are? It's a travesty America hasn't changed and continues to go down this path. It just makes me want to cry." So let's talk real quick about Mr. Bailey's particular perspective. Now, first of all, let's just lay a couple of things out. First of all, in most of these shooting competitions, it's important to understand, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's other competitive shooting at colleges and universities, most of the firearms that you're talking about are either shotguns. So that's number one. And keep in mind, when they start talking about these mass shootings, absolutely, positively, none of the guns that are used or firearms that are used in these competitive shootings are shotguns. Or when you talk about competitive shooting, once again, Olympics, we're talking about air rifles and air pistols or .22 caliber. Once again, not firearms that are used in mass shootings. Yet, you have people who are saying they want to remove it. They want to remove competitive shooting from the Olympics. You have people who are working to shut down competitive shooting teams, either at the high school level or at the university level. It is beyond frustrating when you recognize that they're not interested in whether or not these firearms are actually dangerous or used. They're not worried about that. They're not worried about whether or not having shooting sports actually causes violence. They just don't like the perception, right? They didn't like the fact that the NRA gives hundreds of thousands of dollars to high school shooting teams throughout the state of California, right, in order to help promote the shooting sports. This is a Wood Creek High School, the shooting team over at Wood Creek High School. And what's fantastic about it, and that's actually here in Northern California. And what's great about it is once again, these are kids who are learning firearm safety, right? They're learning how to responsibly handle and utilize a firearm, as opposed to just stumbling upon one that maybe has been dropped on the ground after it's been used in the commission of a crime, right? These are kids who are not criminals. These are kids who are not going out and committing crimes. But they're kids who are, in many cases, they're a part of a sport they wouldn't otherwise be a part of sports. They're learning team concepts. They're learning competition. They're being encouraged to have better grades, and yet and still, nobody cares about any of that. All they care about is, can we ban guns? And they don't like the image of guns. I had a chance last year to actually do an interview with some members of USA Shooting. These ladies, this was at SHOT 2018. And I just wanted to play with you just a kind of a quick clip from it, because I wanted you to have an idea of exactly what the Second Amendment meant to these young ladies, who otherwise probably, if it weren't really for the Second Amendment, probably wouldn't, they wouldn't have a lot of the opportunities that they have. So anyway, I wanted you to hear this little clip about what the Second Amendment means to them. I just get a real quick brief. What does the Second Amendment mean to each of you?
The Second Amendment for me is really just, it's life opportunities. So many doors have been opened for me because I was able to be a part of, the shooting sports and the firearm industry. And I would not be sitting here in front of you today if it weren't for the Second Amendment and the rights that we have.
Yeah, I definitely agree with McKenna. Just being in this sport, it's, like I said, I can't imagine my life without it. And the Second Amendment has helped so much with that, me being able to train and being able to compete as much as I do. But I think also as, a woman in her early 20s, I want to have that right to carry if I need to and keep myself safe. And that's something that I really can't imagine giving up the right to do. So to me, it's really important on a large scale.
Yeah, I'll just keep it short and sweet. So I'm pretty thankful for the Second Amendment because shooting is my future. So I definitely need it.
Very similarly, I'm going to echo a lot of what was said. Is for me, it's definitely two streets. It's not only my opportunity to use the tools to progress my career and my Olympic dream, but it's also a way of feeling confident when I'm away from home and on my own, and not feeling like I need to be worried or concerned when I'm out there. So it's very, very important to us, and I think that echoes throughout a lot of the Olympic shooting community.
So, for those out there who believe that the shooting sports or that shooting in general or that firearms in general is the sole domain of old white men, please let these ladies serve as an example to you. Not only do they believe that firearms are important and that they believe they have a place in our sport and recreational life, but they also recognize that they have a fundamental role in our personal self-defense. Each and every one of these ladies probably recognizes that their fundamental right to be able to defend themselves is enhanced and strengthened by their ability to be able to have a firearm. If you do not have the ability, because by the way, for those of you who do not know, and most of you, if you're watching this, know this, firearms are the great equalizer. They really are. They're what make a 100-pound woman and a 200-pound man equal. It's what, well, I won't say equal, but it's what allows a 100-pound woman to fight off a 200-pound man that might be trying to do all sorts of bad things. It is what makes each and every one of us, if we are properly trained, if we take the time to really take our own personal self-defense seriously, that if we take owning a firearm seriously as a right and as a responsibility, then it empowers us to not just protect ourselves, but to protect those we love, our family, our children, our spouse, our community, our neighborhood. It puts us in a position to be able to do that. And these ladies recognize it. And all those who participate in shooting sports, because we've obviously heard from those who do not. But here's the thing, folks. It's called a right for a reason. And a right means that whether or not you choose to exercise it, whether or not you believe in it, guess what? It exists. And it's ours. And it's been enumerated in our Constitution that we have it. And I think, rather than trying to ostracize and trying to remove all firearms from culture and society, because we know that's, number one, I say try because you know that it's not going to happen. Because guess what? The criminals will always have firearms. The criminals will always have means, some sort of means in order to be able to inflict their will on the innocent. And it's important that we have the resources and have the tools to be able to fight back, to be able to protect the innocent. But they don't care about that because to them, perception is reality. I don't know about y'all, but in my eyes, reality is reality. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate all of your support. We appreciate you liking these videos. We appreciate you sharing these videos with your friends, telling everybody about the Firearms Policy Coalition and that we are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.